only circumstance where I could see myself siding with Joel, and by all accounts, that's not what happened here, would be one of those situations where, and we all know those reporters that they're out there, think they're tough. They talk about like, you can see me in person, like, you know, it rises to the level of, you know that guy, right? It's personal when he writes. He's like, oh, you can see, okay, boom, he's there. And then I'm standing in a locker room, or I'm Joel in this instance. Like, I'm there in a locker room, minding my business. I kind of pan left or whatever, and you're approaching me in a way where I don't know what I'm about to get from you. If that happens, I can see the hand out, like, hey, yo, back the fuck up, right? And if I catch you like in the chest or something like that, you just got shoved. But what I'm saying to you is, motherfucker, I don't know you. And you're walking up on me really quick, and we got a history, right? So like, I got 3 boys, and there's some rules of engagement, right? Like, we're not going to hit anyone first, right? But if someone takes a swing at you, you're greenlit. There might be some ramifications, but do what you got to do. If someone has, you know, messed with your body a few times and you've asked them to stop a couple times and they won't stop, you might have to tighten him up. There might be some ramifications. You might have to deal with that. The last would be if someone is walking up in your personal space and you have a problem with them before and you are not sure of their intentions, go ahead and do what you got to do, and we'll deal with it after that. So like, that would be the only situation, but by most accounts, that's not what happened.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's interesting because I think these things are a lot more heightened now than back in my like team beat writing days. And a lot of that is like, most of these things they do get caught on camera. Everyone's got an iPhone. It's frankly shocking, guys, that there was not a single iPhone out filming this in the locker room after. Yeah. And some of it is like, Kyle Lowry was apparently in the press conference room, so some of the reporters were in there for Kyle Lowry. I think Tyrese Maxey might have been doing something in the hall. So like, there wasn't a lot of media in there, and it probably all happened so fast that nobody even thought to record it. But you know, I started covering the Lakers in '97, and so for the 7 years of covering Shaq and Kobe, this is all a part of this was pre-cell phone. I had a fucking like pager when I first started covering them. And then eventually like a Nokia brick phone, right? And then the years I'm covering the Knicks, eventually the iPhone comes along somewhere in there. But it wasn't like, there's so much more that is seen and heard now than back in the day. There's also a higher sensitivity overall now. But like, I started thinking about like, did I have anything even remotely like this? And I don't want to get into the total details of this, but like, Kobe motherfucked me pretty good a couple of times. There was one time in particular, we crossed wires, something I wrote. I, to this day, don't think his reaction was justified, but it's neither here nor there. But like, he got on me to the point that I was rattled, right? Like, we'd known each other for 5-6 years by then. I'd been covering them every day. We had a good relationship. Sometimes things go haywire. I was rattled. I was seriously, it's probably as rattled as I've been as a reporter covering the league, because he was that pissed off. He didn't touch me though. He said a lot of shit. And it took weeks before we finally were able to like, you know, get this thing back together. And we were, you know, we had a great relationship all the way up until the end. But yeah, like it happens. Wires get crossed. Or something is written in a way that is maybe not as graceful as you thought it was. Maybe it was, you know, in this case, I wrote something he just didn't want out there. And yeah, Shaq too, but Shaq would be more playful. Like Shaq once picked me up and threw me over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes. And like today, probably people would be like, "Oh my God, you can't touch!" Like, no, it's Shaq.
Yeah,
he's fucking around.
That's also the difference too, man. We're in an era now, bro, where like everything is critiqued and recorded, and you can't say anything, and you can't. I mean, everything is protected, and everyone's offended, and everyone, you know what I mean? So it's tough, man. By the way, you know, you would think most of these dudes are used to being talked about because we grew up with social media. Now, instead of having your first negative article written about you in your second, third year in college or in the NBA, most of these kids are 14 years old and have, 15 comments under their page that are negative. You know what I mean? Because they have 2 million followers in 8th grade now. Like, it's just, you would hope that now with the social media training, that's what most of these seminars are about now. Now you have, it's all like social media training, because this is like what's taken grip of our world. I would hope that most of these guys are used to people. I mean, Joel Embiid has to look at his comments sometimes on Instagram. Like, good God. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's immune to this. So that's how you know the line clearly is if you're talking about family and you're someone we consider a professional, it's honestly a compliment to the guy, Marcus, because if that was a fan saying something about him or someone on his Twitter, he wouldn't even have cared. But when you have the professional, like Howard, yourself, when you are part of the organization, not even if you aren't, and this guy wasn't, but you are a sports writer and you have a following and you have a responsibility to report the good and bad. The family aspect, when it's personal, we just feel like it just has no place in basketball. So that guy crossing that line, clearly, that's the line. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's the line.
Yeah. No, I think that's well put.
It's like
more things I want to.
Go ahead, Raj, like, you can learn a lot, baby. No family, no kids. Like, no wives, no kids. No wives, no kids. Like, the rest of the shit, everything, you know what I mean? Like, the rest of it, no wives, no kids.
Right, unless you're doing like a human interest story about, literally about the family, right?
That's right.
Yes.
And listen, I will throw in one other caveat, though, on that, right? There are divorces. There are domestic issues.
That's different. But even then you're walking a tightrope. Last year, Damian Lillard was going through all type of stuff in the playoffs. You didn't see someone come out and just start talking nonsense, because it's just like, what are we doing here?
No, and I think and I think like the constructive version of that, Austin. I'm glad you brought up Dame. The constructive version of that is, in the midst of it all going on, I don't think anybody was trying to do like, sources say he's going through a divorce and that's why he's having a rough season. It was after the fact when Dame talked about it, and you can contextualize why his first year in Milwaukee was so difficult. Oh, no, it wasn't just that he was adjusting to playing outside of Portland for the first time in his career. It wasn't just that he was adjusting to playing with Giannis and trying to figure out the balance, coaching change, everything else. It was also he's going through some stuff personally, and it helps contextualize and humanize the player. It's not being used as it's not being weaponized. It's being used as context. And so, like, there's personal stuff is sometimes fair game in the right context and with the right presentation, right? So,
no doubt.
All right, real quick. Vince Carter, jersey retired over the weekend. A lot of people felt it was long overdue. There are some people who felt like maybe actually, the Raptors didn't need to go to this place with the player who forced his way out. And, it's funny how these things change, right, guys? Because like in real time, it was Vince Carter's didn't get them far enough, right? And then forced his way out. But time heals all wounds, and we all know what he meant to that organization and to basketball in Canada, period. It's like goes way beyond just what he did, for the Raptors or their fans. But I don't know. Raja, you played against him. Austin, I think you both overlapped because
you both played against him. That's how great. That's how. Raja played against like the actual Vince. You know what I mean? Like the half man, half amazing.
Like Vince Sanity.
I played against half man. You know what I mean? I played against the. He was more. He can still jump higher than me even at 39. That's what's insane. But I'll let Raj speak on him first.
Yeah, no. Well, look, Vince is from Daytona, and I was at 5-star, I think, and there was like this
shout out to 5-star,
like commotion. Yeah, shout out to 5-star, right? Like there was like Garfinkel and the boys, like there was this commotion going on, and I wandered over, and there was this kid that was like, elbow over the rim, like, and this was before high school. Like high school kids now, that's commonplace, but like when I came up, you ain't see too many mofos with like their elbows above the rim, like doing the stuff that he was doing. And that's when I first became aware of him. Obviously watched him at North Carolina. And then my first introduction to him as a pro was like, my first experiences was that 01 Eastern Conference semifinal, which I still maintain was the best individual one-on-one. And I know both of those teams were great. They both had players that did all kind of things that helped them win. But witnessing AI versus Vince in that series and the way that both of them just went crazy offensively, it was still the best one-on-one like display over the course of 7 games I've ever seen in my life. Like, I don't give a shit. You can tell me any number of great ones, and I'd be like, yeah, that was pretty dope. I grew up an MJ fan. I watched MJ against everybody. That Vince AI was incredible. And, then I got to really play against him because I wasn't playing a lot then. And he was one of the rare dudes that fell into the category of you could do everything right and it might not matter. Like you could execute that possession the exact way that you would need to execute that possession defensively, and he'd just hang for one split second longer than you could keep your hand up, and he'd shoot it right before he hit the floor, and it was cash. And that's the way I remember him. Like when he wanted to, there was almost nothing you could do to stop it when he wanted to.
Right. Yeah, Vince's dunking was so elite that for people in my generation or from my time, people kind of miss his overall level of skill. People don't realize that like the whole back 10 of his career, this guy became a phenomenal deep 3-point shooter. You know what I mean? Like people don't realize that this guy was averaging 25, 26, 28 points per game. They weren't 14 dunks. You know what I mean? He had people would go for that one dunk because it was worth seeing that one dunk. But he had the fadeaway. He was one of the original players compared to MJ. People don't even remember, like, they used to compare him to MJ coming out. And even when he started getting things going in Toronto, like, he came on the scene and, like, bursted the NBA. I mean, he was the most popular player. During that year when he did the dunk contest, every game he went to, the crowds would come and they just wanted to see this guy just jump one time. They would wait 48 minutes just hoping for a breakaway. When I just huge on YouTube, man. I go back and watch all this stuff. Synergy. You go back and watch like when he would get a steal or someone get a steal, the sound of the crowd getting antsy of seeing him, knowing that he's just about to do a dunk, just meant something. And he's also part of that cloth where stars did dunk contests, right? Stars did we don't have that no more, man. Like these guys don't want to do it. They'd rather be seen in like a Gucci outfit or whatever style, whatever they got going on. He's part of that, that era that we grew up on. Like you said, Howard, what he meant to just overall Toronto sports. It wasn't a basketball country or a city, and definitely the whole country in general. When you talk about Canada, it's hockey, and basketball wasn't really familiar there until this young guy comes there and is able to take what wasn't really a popular sport there and became a phenomenon. To what it is now, where they have one of the most iconic fan bases when they have the appropriate team. And that's usually because of Vince. That documentary they did on him, I don't know if it was Showtime or who did it, Netflix. Somebody did a documentary on him a couple years back, and it was phenomenal. I love that Vince has his jersey hung up. We get so caught up in like ring culture, but there are so many players who have done so much for an organization, man, and like put blood, sweat, and tears. That's what the irony of his jersey being retired that night, even though he didn't win a ring for them, but he did so much for their city, and like Drake being there and being happy, but then coming at DeMar DeRozan saying he'll pull his jersey down when he did the exact same thing, bro. He never won a championship, but he's done a million things for that city, and he tried every year to go to the playoffs and performed at a high level. DeMar DeRozan's gonna have his jersey up there one day too. And for him to be like, I'll pull it down, it's just like, bro, what are we talking about here? First off, you can't. Secondly, you don't have that pull. And three, it's like, who are we kidding, man? DeMar DeRozan is a beloved person in Toronto. He's definitely going to have his jersey up there next to Vince. And so is Vince, man. And for people, he shouldn't have her jersey hung up. He didn't win a championship. It's like, my guy. If he doesn't have his jersey hung up, then who does? What are we talking about? You know what I mean? I'm very happy. The best part about that was seeing his emotions. You know what I mean? Yeah. You don't see a lot of that from Vince. Seeing him the whole weekend be emotional, crying, having his kids. You see what it means to these athletes, man, and the power organizations have when they give their flowers to a player. Because a lot of these guys feel like they're not cared about because they are traded or casted off, or he forced himself out and things don't end right. When you kind of come back home and there's a hug, it's like a hug. It's like a big, I forgive you hug mutually, and it didn't end well, but we love you and we appreciate you. You see it, man. I saw it years back with T-Mac. We used to have feelings with T-Mac here. It didn't end well here in Orlando. I'm an Orlando kid. T-Mac is like our GOAT here in Orlando. And it ended weird. And at one point in time, they embraced him in the jersey and all that stuff. And now it just means a lot. So I think it was really cool that they did that for Vince, and it was well-deserved. Shout out to Vince Carter.
No, well said, Austin. That was great. No, I absolutely. And it's it's cool covering the league to be able to see like the full arc of these storylines sometimes, right? Where a guy can go from, all right, you're our savior. You're going to take us to the promised land. You're going to be our guy. And then fans and organizations sour on a player asks out, or the team trades him, even if they didn't want out. And you go through all these different emotions, all these different phases. It's good to see that it is a time heals all wounds kind of thing, where at the end, it's like, you know what? Whatever we went through, whatever we felt at that moment, this guy meant absolutely everything to this organization. And you see it, it takes some time sometimes, right? Shaq and the Magic, T-Mac and the Magic. Like there's plenty of those kinds of examples. You wonder how, if you mentioned Blake Griffin earlier, Austin, like Blake and the Clippers, if that'll ever be healed, who knows?
Right.
But
right. There's a lot of examples.
It's good to see that. Yeah, but it's good to see that most of the time, once everybody's had a chance to kind of like assess the full breadth of a guy's career and situations, everybody forgives everybody, and you could just honor a guy for what he meant. And
100%.
The Vince one was awesome. That was great. It was absolutely deserved, absolutely warranted. And he's just a really good dude. Like, you guys know him probably better than I do, but every interaction I've ever had with Vince has been really positive. So it was very cool. All right, before we go, mailbag. Austin, you want to stick around for the mailbag?
Let's do it. I'm here.
All right, cool. Producer Cliff. We got Producer Cliff, which is like, I think we've set some sort of like, Raj, tell me, is this a Real Ones record for like most producers in like a 5-show span?
Oh,
like,
no question.
Is it me?
No, yeah, well, it could be. I mean, it could be you and I together, any number of reasons, but yes, record nonetheless.
Producer Cliff sitting in. All right, cool. Appreciate it. Tell HR I'm actually just great to work with, please, because I'm a little worried right now.
Oh, man. Well, the most logical, most natural comp would probably be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, we just... I mean,
why
the similarities just...
Why not say Jokic? I mean...
Hey, what's funny? What's funny? We talked about this before with my boy, and I was like, if Raj played in today's era, you would have been like a $90 million player, like 130. Like Jalen Suggs just signed a $150 million contract. He defends and shoots threes. Lou Dort signed a $90 million contract. You were out there guarding like Kobe Bryant and all these guys and like hitting threes. Like, you would have been like $100 million. Isn't it crazy? Yeah. Like how the NBA is.
I know you think that's supposed to make me feel better. It does not.
It was.
No, it's great. It is crazy. It's bananas. It's bananas. Listen, real quick. I was sitting in when the contracts really changed. I was sitting my first year out, second year out. I was sitting with the Cavs, free agency open. We're all sitting around a table. We're about to shoot at these targets. And Damari Carroll had been my young bull in Utah. And I love Damari. And Damari's name, like it popped up. Somebody was like, Damari Carroll, 4 years, 60. And I remember looking around the table like, Damari, good for him. Like, get the bag. But I was like, that's the going rate now for like, fuck me, man.
Yeah,
like,
bro.
But also, like, there was somebody sitting there when I got paid, whatever I got paid.
Thinking that's the same how it works. Austin, right? That's how it works. That's how it works. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I'll tell you, it does not work that way in my business.
So sadly. Player comp, SGA.
Yeah, SGA. I mean, we're going to stick. No, I mean, Lou Dort's interesting. Like, I think, real talk, there are a lot of dudes, and I thought about this a little bit. There are a lot of dudes that are 3-and-D guys, but because the game is so wide open and there are not as many, like, there are more actions now than plays. A lot of those dudes that are 3-and-D can do more with the ball than I could. They just, because they're asked to do more with the ball than I could. The one that I think kind of is like me a little bit as I watch is the kid from the Heat. What's his name? Haywood. Is it Highsmith? Or yeah, because when you watch him, like, he doesn't do a ton with the ball. They like a lot of what he does is off of like, you guys create, I'll finish. And at least later in my career, like the meat of my best years was kind of doing that.